Welcome to BizSugar Live. Join us today to find out why you must set up Google Analytics 4 before the version you may be using now goes away. Our expert is Anil Batra, a digital data and analytics strategy advisor at Optizent. He has 17 years of experience as a digital marketing and analytics executive. Anil has led digital and analytics teams for various agencies, managing Fortune 500 clients, and he has trained people from diverse backgrounds to convert them into high-performing digital marketers and analysts. In addition, he has developed Optizent Academy. It helps marketers learn how to leverage data to create a better customer experience and drive higher ROI and set up Google Analytics. If you want to increase your income as a freelancer or an agency, you will want to hear what we covered today. Go ahead, Anil. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. And as the topic says, Google Analytics, as you know, it is dead, right? And I just saw the poll results. Some of you have been using Google Analytics actively, and that's going away. The one you are using is going away. So today we are going to be talking about what's different in new Google Analytics and how can you smoothly transition to new Google Analytics. So we'll also talk about what's going on there, all the changes that have happened. So before we dive in, let me give a little bit more information about who I am. Gail did a good job on explaining who I am, better than I would do. I have, she said 17, 20, who's counting? Sometimes I write 17, sometimes I write 20. I was just counting like which place, at what point did I start doing analytics, like digital analytics. And prior to doing digital analytics, I was working in the databases, so bringing all the data from different systems. And at one point in my career, the web data happened to be the one that we were bringing in, and that's how I transitioned into the whole digital space. I have Bachelor of Technology from a small place called Pantnagar in India. And then I did my master's from University of Tennessee. And then I did also MBA from University of Washington, where I sometimes do teach classes as well. Frequent speaker at various conferences. So I love teaching. I love talking about it. Today, actually, I have this session, and then I'm teaching a class, and then I have another session with Digital Analytics Association, where I'm talking about the career in digital analytics and how can you go from zero to hero there. I was on the board of Digital Analytics Association as well. I've led marketing agencies, started a company back in 2007, and sold it in 2008, right before the financial crash, the market crash that happened. So it was good timing for us to build a company and sell it. Right now, I'm working on Optizent Academy, which have two parts to it. Optizent Academy, which is the training, teaching. That's my passion. That's what I love to do, help others succeed in this career. And then I also have Optizent Consulting Arm, which is where we help clients leverage that data to make business decisions, whether it's marketing, whether it's products, digital products, etc. Here are some of the places where I have consistently taught classes. University of British Columbia, Microsoft, I ran a program for them to help them become more data-driven in how they, they're collecting data from various places. So how do you leverage that data to make better products, better marketing? The University of Washington and Bellevue College. I have taught over in 152 or 53 countries, over 40,000 people. So this map shows where all my students, people have been. Optizent, I talked about this. We do corporate training, online training, etc. Some of the clients I have worked with, a lot of work with Microsoft because I live in Microsoft land. You can't avoid that. So that's about me. Let's talk about Google Analytics. So as you know, you've heard the news, Google Analytics is going away, right? But before we dive into what's happening with Google Analytics going away and the new Google Analytics coming out, let's talk about what is Google Analytics. You guys have used Google Analytics. It's a free digital analytics software, and we'll talk about what digital analytics is. It allows you to collect, report, and analyze data. So key things here are, which is the definition of digital analytics: collect, report, and analyze. Many organizations just collect and report. And when it comes to analysis, that's where they are struggling. Now, with Google Analytics being changing to current Google Analytics, which is called Universal Analytics, many people are calling it GA3, which is not the right term. It's actually Universal Analytics. But many people many people who are using Universal Analytics are, like, as I said, collecting and reporting. However, with the new change, now collection and reporting is also a challenge, which we'll talk about. The key with Google Analytics or any digital analytics tool, whether it's Google Analytics or we work with other tools as well, Pivot Pro, Adobe Analytics, the key is to analyze and then develop the insights to help you create a better customer experience and ROI from your digital marketing efforts. You also, when I say customer experience, that's creating that's your digital product. Your website is your digital product. You have certain things on that. So developing that product in a way that aligns with your business objectives, whatever that business objective is. It's not necessarily making money. Some of you are bloggers. As I saw, a lot of people are doing it for blogging, small business information. You're not selling stuff. However, there is tons you can learn about your customers. You can create an experience that'll drive them to work with you, or you'll learn more about them so that you can cater to their needs better. That's what you have to do. And that's what Google Analytics allows you to do. If you are not already doing that, then I challenge you to actually start thinking in those terms. Collection and reporting is easy part. Analyzing and insights is the difficult part. So digital analytics, as I said, Google Analytics is a tool there. Digital analytics is the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of website and digital channels for the purpose of understanding and optimizing web and digital channels. Keep that in mind. So purpose, never forget the purpose of the tool. Tool is there. It'll allow you to do whatever you want to do. If you know how to use a hammer, sure, you can put any nail there. But are you putting the nail in the right place? Are you cutting the boards correctly? Are you making the table or a chair? That depends on how you're understanding and optimizing and what's the purpose. So what does analysis allow us to do when you understand these? Identify content users like. For example, in blogs, you can look at categories. If you are a multi-author blog, you can look at which authors people gravitate towards. You can slice and dice the data in several ways. You have to collect it correctly, but you can slice it and really hone in and find out what is that users like, what makes them take that next action, whatever that next action is. Identify friction in users' journey, understand their motivation. You can reach the right audience at the right time with the right message, right? When you do Google Ads advertising, those who are doing e-commerce, generally you'll go and create an ad in Google Ads. Some of you might be doing retargeting, which is somebody left a product in your shopping cart, and you want to retarget them. But that's very limited view. You can do much more. Let's say even if you're a blogger and you are creating the content and that resonates with certain type of people. So let's say you write about travel. I love hotel content. Maybe somebody else loves airline content. You can actually categorize that. You can create all those segments within Google Analytics, push them to Google Ads, and then target the right message, which is, hey, Anil loves hotels. That's the message he's going to see. He doesn't care about the airlines. I'm not going to show him about the airlines or the credit card points or whatever you're writing about. So you can get actually very much in detail. If you are doing e-commerce, in that scenario, you can go and target based on the preferences. You can loyalty of the customer. You can bring online and offline data together, push it to Google Analytics and to Google Ads. And GA4, which is the new version of Google Analytics, makes it much easier to do those kind of things. You improve your marketing ROI, create better customer experience, and many more things. So that's what analysis needs to do, is to help you understand your customers better, your audience better, your marketing efforts better, your content strategy better, whatever you're doing, and then help you do more of things that are working and less of things that are not working, so that you can keep testing them out and collecting data. There are several digital analytics tools. We are talking about Google Analytics, but I wanted to give you an overview of the tools that are available for you to use. Maybe you are already using some of these tools. We don't have a poll on this, but if you can just write it in Q&A, just let me know which other tools you are using along with Google Analytics. That will be helpful for me to know like how far, how mature your analytics is. One is the measurement. We have GA and GA4. We'll talk about GA4. That's what is happening with Google Analytics. Collection, you have Google Tag Manager that allows you to collect. Now think about that definition I gave you. The measurement, collection, analysis, reporting for the purpose of understanding, right? So analysis, you have GA, GA4, which is allows you to dig deeper. Data Studio, which is a free tool, and BigQuery, which is also free up to certain amount of data. And most of the small businesses and bloggers will never ever have to pay for BigQuery. Bigger organizations will have to pay for BigQuery. It's a data storage system, and that allows you to drill deeper as well as bring in other data sources such as third-party data, weather data, and all that stuff. Reporting, Google and Google Analytics 4 and Data Studio. Understanding, again, these tools allow you to analyze, report, analyze, and understand. And then optimizing. That's what we're trying to do. Once we understand what's working, what's not, then we have to optimize. And there is Google Optimize that allows you to do it. Today, our focus is going to be this, GA and GA4. We're not talking about Google Optimize or BigQuery, Data Studio, etc. But this is a complete landscape that takes you all the way from measurement, collection, reporting, analysis, and optimizing. So what's happening with Google Analytics? I think the date is correct. I think July 1st is when they will stop collecting the data. So current Google Analytics, called Universal Analytics, is going away. So you have about 14, 15 months now to move over to GA4. When GA4 came out, this was in October last year, I think. I'm just trying to get my, maybe 2 years, year and a half ago. When it came out, I have been on top of GA4 to understand what this new tool will allow us to do and what's going on. Many people ignored it at that time, thinking Universal Analytics is not going away. However, Google recently announced that Google Analytics, as you know it, is dead. It's no longer going to be supported. July 1st, 2023, it won't even collect any data. December 31st, 2023, all that data that exists in Google Analytics, it will be removed. So you won't even have access to it. So you've got about 2 years, 15 months plus 18 months or whatever, to move your data if you care about historical data. So what's happening is this new Google Analytics called GA4 or Google Analytics 4 is coming up. This Google Analytics 4 allows you to collect data from both website and app. Previous Google Analytics only allowed you to have this version where you could send the data to your website. There was another version called Web plus App that was kind of bringing the data together, but not really creating a consistent story, not giving you a consistent view into users. Users, as we know, they use different devices. So GA4 allows you to bridge this gap where it brings the mobile app as well as the website and even offline. If you have offline data, it allows you to integrate all that together. So user can come in from your Facebook ad, Google ads, whichever direct source, they can go to your website, they can go to your app, and you can see all that data in Google Analytics 4. So it's merging the user view or user journey into one view. That is one of the big changes that has happened. However, previously Google Analytics 4 was called Google Analytics App plus Web, and that was mainly used for web tracking. So With this change, what's going away, and then we'll talk about what you are going to get, and then I'll get into the details of those things. So what's going away is the familiar interface. You have been using this interface, and you are so used to it. People, when I run a Facebook group where we have about 30,000 people who are interested in GA, etc. They basically come and talk about what's changing, and I heard a lot of people, I still hear, that GA4 is bad. Why? We humans resist change. And I wrote a blog post on this. Like, we just, anytime a change happens that does not align with our thinking, all of a sudden we basically have this fight response where our brain says this is wrong. And that's what's going on. That's the biggest change, because all of a sudden you have a new interface to work with. The views, people were used to using views in Google Analytics, right? You created account properties and views. And I'm assuming, I haven't looked at the poll results, but I'm assuming people have used, yes, Google Analytics, so that nobody answered that no, which basically means you know what views were. Those are going away. Now, I've heard chatter that they might come back, but for now, you'll have to live without views. Several canned reports or predefined reports are going away. If you look at in Google Analytics today, you have lots of reports. Google Analytics 4 has limited set of reports that are predefined for you. However, you can create multiple other reports and add them to your navigation. Google Analytics GA4 allows you to do that. Bounce rate is one of the metrics that bloggers have used and many advertisers have used. Pretty much everybody has used is bounce rate, right? Everybody familiar with bounce rate? When a user comes to your site, does not go beyond the first page and bounces off. That's bounce. And the rate of that the rate at which people leave is called bounce rate. Blogs generally have a very high bounce rate. And by nature of blogs, they do have a high bounce rate. So bloggers look at that as well and say, what is my bounce rate? But generally it's 75+%. That is going away. And I think that's a good change, because many people have used bounce rate as it is out of the box. However, organizations we work with, we come up with our own definition of bounce rate. Because as bloggers see, you have a high bounce rate, 75 to 90%. Why? Because people come in, they read an article, maybe they came from social media, maybe they came searching on Google, whatever the case, they read an article and leave. That's it. And you will see close to 100% bounce rate. However, a user might have spent a lot of time reading that article. So it's actually not a bounce. So bounce rate was not the right way to measure some of the things. So we were coming up with our own definition of bounce rate and triggering certain events to truly understand user behavior. And GA4 allows you to do that by default. It has come up with a metrics called engagement. And every 10 seconds, it pings the server, letting know that the user is still on the site or on the app. So you get a better idea. So bounce rate is going away. I don't think it's coming back, but I heard people are trying to. So maybe GA will listen and bring it back in some form. Old tracking is going away. And this is a change that you have to make within now and when the data starts next year, when they stop collecting the data. So your old tracking, if it's a very basic tracking, then not a problem. You can get it up, set up, and I'll show you at the very end how you can get that going. But old tracking will stop working. You have to put new tags. And if you are doing complex tracking, that's where the challenge will start to come in, because you have to think in the new way. You have to think how you are going to translate your old tracking into new tracking. And as I'm telling clients, this is the time for you to think, audit, reflect on what you really want to track. Because if you keep tracking, and I've seen this over and over again, where tracking, people put tracking, then they forget what the tracking was for and they leave it. Now is the time to go audit it and clean it out. And then old data, as I've said, is going away. So you have to, if you care about that old data, you need to export it and put it in either in BigQuery, Google Sheets, or CSV files, however you want to bring it. But that old data will go away. So if you want to look at historical 5-year trend, you're not going to get it. So what's new in GA4? Simpler data model compared to Google Analytics. It's much simpler to understand. Once you put your head around it or start thinking about it, you'll see that it's much simpler. Event parameters for deeper insights. So you, in Google Analytics, your Universal Analytics, you had 4 event parameters: category, action, and label. And there was a value, which value people rarely use. They only use category, action, and label. But now you have 25 or 35 parameters that you can pass. So you can get really, really deeper insights. As a blogger, you can pass author, categories, tag, time when the user is reading, the type of content, how far they are on the content, etc. You can actually create a lot more deeper tracking and then get deeper insights. User properties to enrich user data. So you also get user properties. And we'll talk about the model, and I'll go through details of these. Cross-device data in one single view. We talked about that, which is app, web. Easier to comply with users and local laws to delete data. So users' requests for deleting data and local laws, because every city, every country, every place has a different law. And based on those, you can easily go and delete the data from Google Analytics 4. There is machine learning to counter cookie deletion and missing data. Cookie deletion is one of the hot topics these days. It has been there for actually 15 plus years now. I was reading my old blog posts. So I started writing back in 2006 is when I started writing about these blog posts on these topics. And I see that one of the topics was cookie deletion. And it's still coming back. And now it's coming with all these laws and etc. It's actually taking center stage. So there is machine learning in GA4 that allows you to bridge that gap if a user deletes their cookie. You can store historical data forever using native BigQuery integration. BigQuery allows for data enrichment. And that's a big change in my opinion, coming from a database background and not just relying on solely on one data source. I can tell you this is one of the biggest things that people are not realizing how big this can be for them to understand and really drive at all their marketing, whether it's email marketing, on-site personalization, ad targeting, etc. You can get rich data. And first party and third party data, I'll tell you some stories if I have time about how you can bring those data together. You get better insights. It is an exploration tool that allows you to get deeper into it. BigQuery also allows you to do that, as we saw in the tool set. So let's talk about all these things that I talked about in detail. And feel free to type in your questions, because I want to see what these questions are make sure I address those questions. I don't want to keep this one-sided conversation. Okay, I'm going to stop here and read questions. For new site launching in end of May, is it better to use GA4? When will it be available? Could you recommend alternatives to Google? Great question. If a site is launching in the end of May, it is better to go with GA4. Now, however, what I've been recommending, if you are familiar with Universal Analytics, then go ahead and implement both. You can track both. This way, you will have familiar interface of Universal Analytics till you get used to new GA. Implement the GA4 correctly, learn while this is going on, and start collecting historical data, because by the time you're there, it'll be 1 year and you'll have historical data. So I would suggest go with both if you're familiar with Universal Analytics. If you're not familiar with Universal Analytics, then you can start with GA4. Knowing that GA4 still has some bugs, which I just noticed last night, somebody was telling me that they couldn't see certain things, but Google is fixing them, giving them a priority to fixing those things. So go with GA4 if you're not familiar with UA. If you are familiar with UA, go with both. When will it be available? It is available now. You can start today. Oh, I don't know where that question went. I was reading, so. Oh, did I?
Sorry, my fault. Click on answered and scroll to the bottom. That's
okay. Yeah. Can you? Oh, could you recommend alternatives to Google? There are alternatives to Google. There is one called PVIC Pro that we are partners with. It's based out of Europe and it's GDPR compliant. That has a free version as well. I'll drop a link, or Gail, I'll send you the link for that. When you send out an email, you can send that link for that as well. That one allows you to do whatever Google allows you to do. It's actually very similar to Universal Analytics. That too. Very, very similar. If you are familiar with Universal Analytics, it'll be a slam dunk. You can just go implement it and you'll be able to use it with ease. Okay. I'm going back to the question, what is the intention for the change? Has Google been pressed by EU and GDPR stuff? That is an intention. Great question. Well, one of the intention there is also to combine multi-device behavior of users. So if I see something on TV, I have my phone next to me, right? So if I see an ad, I'm going to go on my phone and check that. But I might not purchase there. So later I'll be on my computer and I want to purchase that. So I'll just go on my computer and go to that website and purchase the product. Now, how do you attribute that purchase? Is it a direct traffic, or is it a traffic from mobile app, or is it traffic from TV? That is the challenge marketers are facing. Like, should I be spending money on TV? Should I be spending money on my mobile app or mobile experience? Or is it like people are coming on my web? Purchase happened on web, research happened on mobile, awareness happened on TV. And that is the challenge we face. In some cases, it might actually be I go offline and purchase it. So I see this, I do more research on my computer, and then I purchase in the store. Now it's very disjointed. So one of the reasons is to bring all these together. Second is mobile apps are becoming common. Everybody has a mobile app. And app analytics requires a different mindset, right? It's, all your interactions have to be triggered. All your interactions have to be tracked. And GA4 allows you to do that in the new model because it's all event-based, user and events, as you can see on my screen. So that's one. Definitely compliance is one of the other ones. Data deletion, they need that. Cookie deletion, as I mentioned, is another one because cookies are being deleted. So how do you fix that? Now they can use machine learning. They can use these event-based models to bridge that gap. So I think that's what's happening. They're trying to keep up with where the market is going, plus all the changes that are happening. Yeah, good to hear about GA4 engagement. Great. Yeah, it is good. Take a look at it. You'll love it because every 10 seconds it pings. So that's actually true, tells you about true user behavior. Interesting answering on the linkage between different devices, multi-channel. I'm okay to be tracked if they are using it in a good way. Yeah, I'm okay to be tracked too. I don't care about tracking, but as long as they're not using sensitive information and there are laws to protect that. But other than that, I have never deleted my cookies. Never. 15 years we've been talking about cookies. I have never deleted. I am more worried about taking my car, going out because there are cameras, there are satellites, everything. Google Pictures is taking my pictures, etc. And then I walk into a store. Store has cameras. Store has beacons. Store knows which aisle you're looking at. I worked with one of the big retailers. And one of the things we were doing is taking online tracking kind of thing in offline tracking in stores. So your phone, and there are beacons all over these aisles. And they know with the cameras, they can actually triangulate and figure out which aisle people are looking at, where they are spending time. There is actually a whole field called now store analytics. So they are tracking everything. And if you have their mobile app on your phone, let's say you go and you have QFC, Safeway, Fred Meyer, whatever, grocery store, Target, any store. If you have that app is constantly pinging. It knows you are in the store. It knows which aisle you are in. It can track all that. Now that starts to become a little scary because they can see which products you're looking at. But that's the level of tracking. Online tracking is actually very, very small compared to what happens as you are going through in the offline world. But all these things are merging. You can send store data using Google Analytics 4 APIs into Google Analytics, so you can see that view as well. But that's an advanced topic. All right. So simpler data model resides with users and events. So central is user, everything user does. User is enriched by user properties, and events are enriched by events are enriched by event parameters. You can pass lots of information about users and events, and then everything a user does or happens on the app or site is an event. You scroll, that's an event. You download a white paper, that's an event. You're reading an article, pinging every few seconds is an event. You are looking at other pages, that's an event. All those things are events. Now, there is no concept of page views. What's a page view? What's a virtual page view, etc. It's all events, and you can enrich them. Then you have cross-device journey. We talked about these, right? Oh, I think I got these slides mixed up a bit here. But a a person who interacts with your website or app is called user. The person is described by user properties. Many user properties are automatically tracked by Google Analytics. So you'll see tons of information about users, such as their location, etc., tracked by Google by default. And then you can collect up to 25 additional user properties for deeper understanding their occupation, whether they're a subscriber, etc. Events, user interactions with the website or app are tracked as events. I talked about this one. Each event can have 25 parameters. I think I said 25 or 35, something like that. And this limit might change. So I don't pay attention to that as long as I don't run into those limits. And unlike 4 in UA, many common events are automatically tracked to save implementation time. This is one of the big changes that is happening. In previous version, you had to track video, YouTube embedded videos. So let's say if I am a blogger, I have a small website or whatever, I'm putting a YouTube video embedded on the page. I had to do special tracking to track those, like how many people are looking at the video, how far they are going, etc. In GA4, all you have to do is flip a switch and it's done for you. These are the user properties collected automatically. Age, and this is done via Google. So age is tracked if a user has an account with Google. Pretty much everybody does at some point, or Google has data on them. Then your age is calculated, the country, device brand they are using, etc. So these are all automatically collected. You don't have to do anything. They are available to you. And similarly, events have parameters. We talked about these ones. Name, value pair, similar to user properties. Events have parameters. Some parameters are automatically captured. Yeah.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I only see users and events, like 2 icons on the screen, and I feel like you're sharing something else.
Oh, really?
Right?
Yeah.
Are you on the
Let
right
me just
tab of your browser?
Yeah, I am. Let me reshare it. Is that the case with everybody else, or it's just you?
Could somebody answer in the Q&A? Are you only seeing those 2 icons, or are you seeing more data on the screen? I don't see different slides. Still the one with single data model. Okay, so yeah, they weren't seeing what you were showing either. So the only thing we saw was the 2 icons. We did not see any of the screens that have parameters and things like you're showing now. We now see events have parameters on the screen.
Okay, so maybe this is where it happened, right? Yeah, events have parameters. You see that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, here you see the user properties collected automatically.
Yes.
Okay, so these are the user properties that are collected automatically. So I'm talking about user properties and event parameters. The model is centered around two things: users and events. You can enrich user data by user properties, and you can enrich data for events by event parameters. That's what I'm showing here. So certain user properties and certain event parameters are collected by Google by default. So you don't have to do anything. You can go in and check what the age of the users is, what the App Store. I've never used App Store, but what country they are from, what device they are using, etc. So all these are done automatically for you. Now, events, similar to user properties, events also have parameters. They are in name value pair. Some parameters, just like user properties, are automatically captured. Others you define. You see my screen, right? Events have parameters screen.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Automatically captured event parameters are language, page location, page referrer, page title, screen resolution. So these things are all automatically collected for every event. You can see what that language is, the browser language, the page location, where is the URL of that page, or what's the URL of the page, which page referred to it. So where did the user come from? Not only externally, but internally. Let's say if you go from home page to contact us page, page referrer will be home page. If from contact us, now you go to product page, then on the product page, page referrer will be contact us page. So you can see that journey. By having in this format, you can build complex journeys if you know how to use that data. Not everything is going to be exposed in the default reports. Some of these you can create, but knowing the type of data that's collected gives you the power to ask questions that you might not have asked with the previous version. Types of events there are four types of events: automatic, enhanced measurement events, recommended events, and then custom events. So they bucket all these events into different categories. Events is the central thing other than the user. So automatic events are based on users interaction, such as session. Example is a session start. Whenever user lands on your site, a session is start event gets triggered. When a user is on the page, it pings that, and it's an engagement event that gets triggered. So think about every single thing that's happening on the site or app is tracked as an event. Many event properties are also automatically collected. We talked about this: language, page location, etc. Enhanced events are the events that you can turn on so automatic happens without you doing anything. Then there are enhanced events. These require you to flip a switch. Now, by default, they also are enabled. If you do not want them to be enabled, then you turn them off. So these events are page views, that tracks which page people are looking at, or screen. Scroll, when the user scrolls 90% vertically, the scroll event gets triggered. When somebody clicks on a link that takes them to an outside domain. So if you have a Twitter link, Facebook link, YouTube link on your site, or maybe somebody else's link, when a user clicks on that link, a click event gets triggered. And all these events then have parameters that can tell you which URL the person clicked on, etc. Site search, if you have on-site search, then you view search result event gets triggered. Video engagement, this is YouTube video start, video progress, video complete. All these events get triggered. These are enhanced, so they are automatically triggered for you. And file download, if you have a PDF, a document, etc., where you are asking your users to download this thing, these events get triggered. So saves you a lot of time in tracking, because in past you had to set all these things and you had to set them in a way so that you can track, but now they're all done. I expect this list to grow in future, because Google is looking at what are the common things that people are doing, and they will make it automatic, so you don't have to spend a lot of time implementing it. You don't have to hire consultants to help you with those things. You can just flip the switch. Now you need to know which switch to flip. and what other properties you want to capture along with those. Then you have recommended events. Recommended events provides a list of recommendations based on the type of site you have. This allows you two things. One, it allows you to have a governance model because the naming conventions, Google is setting those up for you. For example, if you are a lead gen site, which kind of falls into retail e-commerce, there is called lead underscore gen or lead underscore gen, which is an event that you need to trigger when somebody submits an email address or contact information. By using the recommended name, you know that this name means lead generation. Google has already announced, Google already gave you that name, so you don't have to come up with your own naming convention. Second, in future, if Google decides to create certain report for lead gen, by using that particular name, you are saying, yes, I am doing lead gen, show me these reports. So by default, you'll start to get those reports in your interface. If you don't use their recommended names, let's say if it's a lead underscore gen, and you create another event called generate underscore lead. Maybe I'm getting the names mixed here, but I don't remember exact name, but there is a list that I can provide you. Then what happens is Google does not recognize that name. And so if they make any reports available for lead generation, you're not going to get those. You will have to manually go and configure them. So I always recommend, as Google says, these are recommended events. Take a look at recommended events, see which one fits your model, and use them. They might fit me in retail e-commerce, but because organizations or sites do multiple things. So you don't have to say, hey, this is only for retail e-commerce and I'm not a retail site, so I cannot use it. No, if it applies to you, go ahead and use it. Job, education, local deals, travel, games. They have created these 4 categories. Again, I expect this category to expand and they will add more categories in here. Then you have custom events. If none of the previous event types work for you, then you can create your own event name. You can call it whatever you want. Give your event a name and the data will be there. So we talked about law and user data compliance, regulatory changes. That's one of the changes that is happening at Google. Users are demanding more control. Browsers are impacting how data gets collected. And to counter that, GA allows for easy compliance. Like 2 things they're doing. One, they're giving you control within the interface for you to say, delete this data, delete this type of data. And also what they're doing is using machine learning to fill the gaps. So if I decide not to give my data, they have limited information, but they use machine learning and figure out what my pattern will be. So you get a good view. Now, keep in mind, many companies, many people get stuck on the actual numbers in Google Analytics. That is not the right way to use Google Analytics or any analytics tool. It is not about actual numbers. It's not accurate. However, what it is, it's precise. That means every time you'll have the similar pattern. So when you use Google Analytics, don't say, hey, I got 1,000 visitors today and 2,000 yesterday were 2,000, today I got 1,000. I'm losing 1,000 visitors. No, you have lost 50%. So think about that. That's the way you need to start thinking about is percentage ratios. Those will remain consistent even if the cookie deletion happens, etc. If you count actual numbers, which is where a lot of organizations get stuck, then you'll be scratching your head and never get an accurate answer. So, and machine learning allows you to fill those gaps so you can easily see what's happening. But trends is what you should focus on. How are we doing on time? Yeah, I was asking, okay, we have time. ML and AI to fill the gaps. I've talked about this one. Historical data in GA4. This is an important aspect. So whoever is going to be implementing GA4, keep this in mind. In GA4, by default, it enables you to store data up to 2 months. That's it. So when you enable GA4, by default, you can only have data up to 2 months. You go look in exploration. you'll see that it's only for 2 months. You can change that setting to 14 months by going into the admin panel in data stream and changing the setting. Go ahead, do that. This is number one. Whenever you implement it, make sure you enable it for 14 months. GA4 allows you to send data to BigQuery, and that this way you can keep the data forever. So you don't have to rely on just 14 months. Smaller businesses always should do that. You won't be charged for BigQuery. BigQuery is a paid solution, but there is certain limit where it's free. For now, I think with all my experiments, with all my sites, I was sending so much data, I think I paid them 3 cents over 1.5 years. So small businesses, you can always keep the data there. And after 2-3 years, you won't even need that data. So you can get rid of it if you want. But at least you'll have more than 14 months. Data integration, sending the data to BigQuery allows for data integration. Online data provides limited insights. Combining online with offline data, first-party CRM data, and third-party opens up new possibilities. If you're an e-commerce site, you know that local events, weather, school opening, reopening, etc., all these things have a big impact on how your sales are going to be. International events, something happened in somewhere in Russia, wherever, that can have an impact. You have a local sports going on, and that can have an impact. There is a traffic jam, and if you have a store nearby, that can have an impact. Putting all these data, because there are many data sources available within BigQuery and also other places, you can understand users' behavior at a much deeper level. So that's why combining all these data will open up new possibilities for you to understand and target and create a better experience for your users. Deeper understanding, user motivation, ad targeting, personalization, all these things happen if you understand, if you bring all these data together. So that's what GA4 allows you to do, because now you can take the data, put it in BigQuery, enrich with other data sources, and here you have a richer information. Better insights, you have deeper analysis with exploration tool, automatically discovered insights using ML and AI. So within interface, Google Analytics also surfaces some insights that tells you, hey, how your site is performing or app is performing, and they're using machine learning to figure that out. And then you can even ask questions there. You can go in and type in certain things and say, how is my traffic on this day? You'll get those answers. So that's what GA4 is doing. I'm going to go into GA4 quickly in a few minutes to show you some of the things, and we'll answer your questions. So let's get you started with GA4. Those who are interested in getting started with GA4, we have created this package for Blogger or standard setup. This is done for you setup. You don't have to do anything. You just tell us what your website is, give us access to it, and we can get this set up for you. And then others, Bloggers is pretty standard setup, so it's very inexpensive to get this done. But others, which are bigger sites, e-commerce sites, it's much more complex, because e-commerce have different data layers. This is where we get into technical things, and we need to make sure it's all set up correctly. And it's generally 5K plus for us to set that up. Sometimes it's lower depending on if it's a site is using standard plugins, etc. Then we can get it done much cheaper, but we can talk about that. And then there is also a self-serve option. Self-serve option is where like I said, my passion is teaching, training, etc. So I've created this academy where you can go in, not only Google, but all these tools that I talked about, plus others, you can learn a lot about them. So if you want to do your own setup, you can go through GA4 course. It will give you instructions. You can set it up on your own as well as learn it. So I created this one coupon for you guys. If you sign up today now, then you can use this SMBiz coupon and you'll get 20% off on the membership. And membership is because not only you get courses, but you have a community that's there to help you. So one of the questions that Gail was asking me about the success rate on people who want to do self-serve, and I said 100%. People who do want to do themselves, because there is a community that can help them, And if in part of that community is me answering those questions. So you'll never feel like you're stuck. Once you get stuck, you post a question, you'll get an answer back. So you can learn and do it on your own. And we meet twice a month as well. Tomorrow is our next meeting where members come in and they can ask questions, those who have questions. Some people just come to listen in. Some people come to learn, share. And this is a community where we learn and share with each other. So that's what you can do. And now I'm going to go to Google Analytics. Before that, let me see your questions. Go ahead and ask your questions so I can make sure I'm answering them. So how will sites be ranked in the future? How many unique visitor page compared with events? What will the advertising companies think about? A bit of to IAB standard for podcasting analytics and unique downloads. Yeah, I mean, I think sites are still going to be ranked. Users are still users. So you are going to get users. Page views are tracked as events, but they are still page views or screen views. So you'll still have the similar kind of ranking. Now, engagement might play a role. Bounce rate was sort of playing a role, not in the way people thought. Bounce rate was only playing a role when you go to a search engine, you type in a keyword, you go to a site, and you bounce back, right, to the search engines. That's what they were tracking. The search engines were tracking that to see if that keyword was relevant to the site or not. But if somebody comes from social media, they read and bounce back. That was never part of ranking system. So I think the ranking will still remain the same with these changes. That fundamentally is not changing. User, which is your reach, page views, which is how many impressions you are likely to get, that's not changing. Which of these would blogs and publishers use? I'm not sure what the question here is.
So you had a screen up that had 4 options: e-commerce, lead gen, other stuff, but there's nothing that relates to publishing or blogs.
Well, it's not, because one, it's the content. Page views are already tracked. If on your blog you have a sign up, you can use lead gen, which is part of e-commerce. So lead gen, I don't know why they put it in e-commerce. I think it belongs in a separate, like you're saying, blog category. But I use events that are there for some other vertical, but they are relevant to me, then I use them. And that's what I'm recommending, is use the events that are relevant to you. So take a look at the list, and list is part of the courses that I have, and I can provide a link as well. But take a look at the list, and they are very, self-descriptive. You can look at the name and you'll know exactly what it's doing. Purchase is for purchase. Lead generation, or I think it's generate lead, I think, and generate underscore lead or gen underscore lead, something like that. It's for generate lead, generating leads. So whatever is there, you can use one of those events. But for bloggers mainly you're using page views, you're using automatically tracked events, because it's the pinging that's going on that gives you engagement. Yeah, I think you should be good there. But like I said, we can get it done and help you with your particular blog, whoever needs that help.
Can you, I want to ask you a question. So if people want to use GA4 and they already have Google Analytics running, Universal Analytics, they have to export their existing data and import it into GA4, or they don't have it?
No, they don't need to. So it's not compatible data, so you can't. Because this model is different, Universal Analytics model is different. What you have is you can run them in parallel. So you'll have 2 reportings, and I'll show you the 2 reportings here. You'll see Universal Analytics and GA4 reporting.
Okay, so they're basically, when they go to GA4, you don't have any historical data in GA4. You're starting fresh in GA4, and everything that was in Universal Analytics is going to go away, and you just won't have it anymore?
They won't have it anymore. What I'm recommending is export that data, and exporting is not easy because there is no tool. I've heard a chatter again that Google might come up with a tool to export it and bring it in BigQuery or Google Sheets. However, at this point, if you have to export the data, there are two ways. One, you can use a third-party solution, such as Supermetrics. That'll allow you to export the data, but it's paid solution and it's expensive. Or you can go pick and choose the data that you want. For example, goals data, etc. You can go manually copy them. Google might, yeah.
That's huge. People are not going to like that at all.
People are already, this is something that Google did not think about, and they just came out and did it, right? So that's the problem. Okay, I'm going to show you Google Analytics. Let me share my screen here. Any questions? Any other questions that I can answer? So let me start sharing and Google Chrome. Let me know when you see it.
I wouldn't want to have an e-commerce site and have that problem.
Okay, I know.
So how long? All right, so you start GA4 running, so you start getting some data in there. But in the meantime, you're going to run Universal Analytics until how long will the data still be in Universal Analytics before it just goes away?
December 31st, 2023. So 1.5 years.
31, what year?
Next year, December 31st.
2023. Okay.
Yep. That's what they are saying. July 1st is when Universal Analytics will no longer process new data. Right here. But you have another 6 months after that for your, and then after that your access will go away. So here is where you have Universal Analytics running, and there is GA4 running. Both of them are running on the same site. So you'll run them in parallel. So those who haven't yet migrated, let's say if you have Google, so you have Universal Analytics, go into your Universal. Let me see if I can find a property where I haven't done this. So let's say this one. Not this one. Let's see one of my fun sites. I love Seahawks. Oh, I think I already converted this one. Let's see if I can find another one.
Okay, what's the name of the whatever it was that you can use to export the data?
Supermetrics. It's a paid solution, and I think I might have a link here. Academy, Digital Analytics Resources, and Supermetrics right here. So here are the free resources. If you are looking for place, I can put that in Q&A, right? So there is a bunch of free resources I have, key things to know about GA4, etc. And 5 videos you need to learn GA4. Those who want to learn on their own, getting started with GA4, etc. So there are a bunch of mini workshops that I have as well. But yeah, that's the tool you'll use. It's called Supermetrics. It's right here. And that's the tool that allows you to do it. However, it's going to be expensive for a lot of people. So I would say is, if you're a blogger, likely you will just export certain type of data like page data. You can just copy and paste it and have it there for the whole year, so you can see how your trends were. Okay, when you're here in Google Analytics, let's say you haven't done it, there will be an upgrade option here. Clicking on that upgrade option will allow you to go and convert, and that's in one of my videos where I walk you through those things, where you can create a GA4. Even though it says upgrade, and I was trying to figure out if there is actually a site that I can use, even though it says upgrade, maybe this one does. Yeah, maybe this one does. Even though it says upgrade, well, it all says GA Setup Assistant here. Click here and get started. It'll walk you through those steps so you can get your site converted. However, that does not mean it'll start to collect the data. You still have to enable data collection, and it gives you instructions, or like I said, we can help you get that going pretty easily. So you can reach out to me and then we'll help you with that process. but you have to start collecting the data. Then what's going to happen is once you enable that, you'll have both GA and GA4 versions running together. So you'll see UA, which is Universal Analytics, and you'll see GA4 data. UA ID starts with UA and dash, and Google Analytics 4 ID starts with just a number. So that's how you can tell. Even if the name is not GA4 and UA, you can tell by this number that it's a Google Analytics 4 property. Within Google Analytics 4, then you have this interface. The key thing here that I highlighted was Explore, which allows you to get deeper into the data. So once you go in exploration, you can explore the data in several ways. Freeform, cohort exploration, funnel exploration, segment, path explore, and user lifetime value. So you can add dimensions and metrics here and start to pull that data. Once you do that, and then you have the metrics that you want to look at. So let's say if I want to look at new users, then you put your rows and you put your values, and it'll start to pull the data. So age is unknown in this case, and these many new users. So, but you can play with all these things. This allows you to drill deeper. You can look at different visualization of your data by looking at this. Is very a key change that I felt was required for those who want to explore the data. Now, if you just want to pull the numbers, then sure, this interface looks very daunting. But if you really want to dig deeper and understand your user behavior, what they're doing, and then this provides a ton of opportunity for you. You have to build that.
Let's say somebody doesn't know this is happening.
Yeah.
And they have Universal Analytics. They don't really use it. And this change happens and they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
What happens to them?
Their data will stop. So they won't get any data, and that's it. They'll have to make the change at that point.
Okay, and is GA4 free? It's free.
GA4 is free.
The data for 14 months, but it's not free if you keep your data longer than 14 months?
Say that again. Sorry, I didn't get that.
Okay, so it's, let's say you're not in Europe, but of course everyone has visitors from Europe. It's free and you can keep the data forever, or you can only keep the data 14 months and the default is only 2 months. So if you don't go change it, you'll only have 2 months?
Correct. If you don't change it, you'll only have 2 months. So that's default. 14 months is all free. Beyond 14 months, the data goes away. So after that, it goes away from the interface. Now, those who want to keep the data, raw data, they can put it in BigQuery. So let me show you BigQuery.
Okay.
Cloud. Console, not cloud. BigQuery is a free up to an extent. In this, you can store. So here is my data that's stored here. I think I've cleaned out some data, but you can look at, let's say this, and details here. Schema preview. Right here, you can see the preview of this data. All this events, etc. I can expand and you can see all the event parameters that are being collected. This is just giving you a preview, but the complete data is there. So if I have to go query this one, let's say in a new tab, and I do star and run query, I think it only has 2 rows in this one. That's why maybe it was shown. Let me see in the project. Yeah, I keep deleting these things, so I don't know which one is active at this point. So query in a new tab, star. Why is it doing this? No, this one doesn't have it either. Maybe it's the same way. New project. BigQuery public data. VQ test, maybe this one. No, this one doesn't have it either. Maybe this one does. Query. Yeah, so this one has more data. I keep deleting this stuff for demo purposes. So as you can see here, this is all the data I have. I have several tables here, 44 tables. So that's each day creates a new table. And then you can see the event name, and then you have the event parameters within it, what parameters are being collected. So like for this one, this event is page view and space title. You can see the title of the page. You can do the session, whether engaged or not, session number. So you can see bunch of stuff here that gets collected for this event, and you have all the data about every single user and every single event that you can store in your database. Once you store in the database, you can put Google Data Studio or Google Sheets or Excel or whatever, and you can visualize the data. So that's how you can pass the data from Google Analytics 4 directly in here, and it'll be stored forever.
This is a super big change.
It is a big change, yeah, because people were paying for smaller bloggers and small sites. This might not be a big impact, right? Because they're not using it. They were not. Enterprises that were using, bigger organization like e-commerce site definitely should be doing that, because there's so much information in here. But I mean, we build data warehouses for organizations, and all we do is we bring the online data such as this one, whether we are using Adobe Analytics, and their CRM data, their email marketing data, and third-party data together in a warehouse, and then we create reports on top of that so that they can understand. And for them, it's a big change because it's now free to put it in BigQuery. And Google is making this change, I think, for two reasons. One, they want to give that power to analyze, for people to analyze and really understand. There's much more to the data they're collecting in Google. And also, second is they're pushing their cloud offerings, right? Because people will be spending more time in the cloud. Enterprises will end up paying for that. Rather than building a warehouse where you're building in a SQL Server or Oracle backend, you're using BigQuery to build that. And there are many BigQuery public data sources available for you to augment. Here is Austin Bike Share, Austin Crime, Austin Incident, Bitcoin data. There is census data, Chicago crime, COVID-19 data. So you can overlay all those things and use them in your own analysis as well on top of your data that you're collecting. You can see all various sources of data that's available. New York City bike, New York multi-vehicle collision data, trees data. So depends on where you are and what data will make sense, but there's tons of data available for you to use for free. And this is all free. You're not paying for any of this. All right, let's see if there are any other questions here.
Well, I think, well, wait a minute, let me check. No, that was it. And I want to thank you for being here today. That's a lot to absorb.
I know, that's why I was trying to like contain it, because I can spend days going through this. And I was just trying to condense it like whatever we can.
Right, I'll update the blog post with the details and some of the highlights that we talked about. Today's video replay will be added to the blog post about the event. It will also be on the BizSugar YouTube channel. I'd like to invite everyone to view all of our webinars. We present them on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month at noon Central, and you can find them on the BizSugar blog at blog.bizsugar.com/webinars, or by clicking on the webinars tab at the top right of the blog. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, Anil. And I will be in touch to get some details on the offer for our members.
All right, cool. Thank you, Gail.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
All right, bye.